good what's left of the morning. Hi, everyone. My name's Kevin Morooney, and I do things at Internet, too. If you were at the kickoff on, I guess, yesterday, on Tuesday, I had an opportunity to talk about a subset of the things that are happening in the InCommon spaces, and it was a subset. There's a lot going on. This morning, my colleagues are going to spend a fair amount of time on several areas, diving down into them. But what I would like to make available to you is, if there's a topic surrounding, the InCommon world that my colleagues aren't going to address, I'm going to kind of walk around a little bit with these cards, and you could write down something you want to hear about. And if I get any cards or enough cards, I'll signal to them to stop 5 minutes, 10 minutes early, and we'll just do a hot round on things that are on your mind about InCommon that we're not talking about or planning to talk about this morning. So just give you an opportunity to and actually micro unconference it a little bit. With that, I'm going to turn it over to somebody. That would be Rami. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Kevin. We always have to draw straws about who talks after Kevin, because nobody ever wants to talk after Kevin, because he's very entertaining. So hi, everyone. I'm Rami Bolton. I am the Associate Vice President for Trust and Identity. And we've got some exciting things to talk to you about today. So in my head, I kind of consider this a carry-on to the plenary that we did at TechX in December. And I talked a lot about what our 2026 priorities are and what we were working on at the time. Well, it's really exciting because 3 of those things are things that are either complete or you're going to hear about what's going on with the activity. So one of them that we're not going to talk about today is the InCommon website. So if you have not been to the InCommon website, please take a look at it, incommon.org. And one of our web staff is on the 6th floor, and she's holding some user experience type things with the website. She would love for you to stop down, give some feedback, tell her what you think about it. And that was really exciting. We did that at the beginning of February. But on to the meat of the conversation for today, we're going to, I got to find the thing. There we go. We're going to talk in depth about the Cert service transition. This is relatively new to the community hearing about it, activity that we're undertaking, and my colleague Sarah Jeans is going to talk about that. I'm going to actually get back up here then and talk about identity proofing and some new activities that are going on around that. That's well underway. Both of these things are now well underway. And then finally, the InCommon Academy and what's coming next. All right, Sarah.
Thank you, Rami. And a colleague of mine this morning said, if folks want to move a little closer and come in, I know we're in a bit of a big room, you're welcome to, and I would love to be able to see folks' faces over these lights. That would help me too. So thank you all for coming this morning. I'm Sarah Jeans. I'm the director for Eduroam and Certificate Services, and Certificate Services has been taking over my life for the last 2 years, largely, and I've left Eduroam to my very lovely colleagues to steward in that meantime. But you may have heard about the transition for the InCommon Certificate Service through a number of our conversations, our communications, our web presence. But this effort actually started around 2 years ago, and you may have participated in it and not even realized it. So we had a survey we sent out, almost 500 people responded to it, asking you all about use cases, about how you use the certificate service on your campus, and really started to get an understanding around what the certificate service might look like. From there, we then held a number of interviews with folks. We went through a requirements gathering exercise, and through this whole course of the conversation, I've been working with my lovely colleagues in the InCommon Certificate Services Redesign Group, chaired by Lisa Doherty at Northern Arizona University, and that group has helped guide and steward this process forward. From there, we worked and put out a request out to the broader certificate community for a new provider that could be identified and meet those set of requirements, and we did find that new provider, who I'll talk about in just a moment. And From there, we then were able to transition and launch this new service offering for the community. Some key pieces we're really looking at around this service. Industry-wide changes are very dramatically changing the way that higher education and research approaches certificate services. We need to lean hard on automation at this point. The complexion of the internet is changed quite significantly from 15 years ago, when we were largely looking for a service that was unlimited and could meet to scale higher education's need around certificates. And a number of my colleagues in the room were there for that inception moment of the service 16 years ago. I joke that the service can now drive. Maybe we should look at it and examine it again in the modern internet context. So this new provider we were able to find is named Cert, and they're in the room, and hopefully you've gotten a chance to meet our colleagues there. If not, come over to our booth right near here and come say hi. They're well regarded in the broader industry around certificate services. We have formal representation with them around the TAG PMA in the grid computing space, as well as they are represented within the CA Browser Forum context as well. And even more importantly, they are US-based, they have US data centers, we're issuing certificates in the US. So I know that's really important for folks to kind of rationalize and look at, especially as you're having conversations with your procurement folks in transitioning the service. A couple things of note that are changing or staying the same. So the core of the service is remaining the same. We are still offering unlimited and continue to offer unlimited TLS or web certificates. And we are working very closely, as I mentioned, with the TAG PMA, which is the North American entity in the IGTF around grid computing, to make sure we're able to offer InCommon branded certificates and InCommon offered certificates into the grid computing space as well. We're really focused on making sure we can continue to meet that research use case. There are some elements that are changing. Probably the big one is the subscriber agreements. We're making it a distinct offering, separate and apart from the InCommon Federation. That's maybe more a philosophical change that would be interesting to dig into with folks. But the practical change here is that we're asking folks to sign an independent subscriber agreement in that context. Also notable, we're pulling public client and public code signing certificates out of the core offering. And this is really important because we have an arc within higher education and research we're following that is significantly impacted by baseline requirements within the certificate industry space. And this is driving the way we use certificates and the way we behaviorally used PKI, public key infrastructure, over the course of the last number of years in a very kind of different direction. And it's causing a lot of conversations, a lot of good conversations to happen. And I want to continue to have those conversations. And I think we'll see some very interesting and important outcomes out of these conversations as we look to future use cases for certificates, and ultimately how they blend together out in the university context, how they might be deployed to student devices, faculty, staff devices, or used in other contexts as we move to API-driven services, for instance. So what's happening today? We're in the middle of this transition. An important date to note is July 17th. That's when we all need to be off of our current platform and onto our new services. And we do have a contractual relationship with our current provider that any existing certificates that are issued off of their platform continue through the natural course of their lifetime. So right now, that would be out into February. But definitely come see us or check out the website if you want to see more details there. A couple things that were on the horizon. We heard in Futures 2 that you want InCommon specifically thinking about the next horizon and to look to understand what's out there, what folks need to be thinking about into the future, maybe 24, 36, 48 months from now. And here's just a couple things to touch on. We are thinking about them. In particular, there's some really interesting opportunities around definition around email certificates and public client certificates. The adoption of email encryption and signing has been relatively light and limited to particular contexts within higher education research, working with DoD or working with other federal entities. This is a particular space that's going to get attention in broader circles here in the next coming months and years, and in our context, I think that will be an item for maybe a topic here at Community Exchange in 2027. So there's a couple opportunities if you happen to be here in person that you're able to meet with us. So we love seeing all of the colleagues in the room here today. Also immediately following this session, go grab some food and meet us down on level 6 in Northwestern. We're going to have a Birds of a Feather session specifically on the certificate services. If you want to take a quick picture of that QR code, that's the transition site, and that'll get you out to the wiki, links to office hours, and definitely as well as connections out to our InCommon catalysts who are part of this ecosystem today and we're working closely with on this transition. And then if you haven't already, just outside to the left here, come see us and chat more about the certificate service. So with that, I'll hand it. Oh, we have a question?
No, I'm just being disruptive. I just want to remind everybody, if there's something else you want to hear about, just raise your hand. I'm scanning occasionally, so just a reminder. Happy to address something else if it comes to mind. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Do you mind talking into the microphone?
You mentioned something about a tie-in from the certificate services to, I think it was baseline expectations. Could you go into more detail on that? I'd love to hear more.
Yes. So not quite baseline expectations in our context, baseline requirements, which is what the CA Browser Forum calls their set of very similar to baseline expectations. They may have copied our homework, in fact. I'll have to ask someone about that. But it's a very similar process that's happening in the public certificate authority context. So for folks running browsers or running the root key stores in Linux, for instance, those folks are going through a particular and diligent exercise to make the PKI infrastructure, the public key infrastructure for the internet more secure. And we're following very closely and being responsive to those changes. Okay, thank you.
Got it. All right, back to me again. So my colleague Ann West is the true expert in this, but she is double booked and giving a session about this very activity. So you get me today. So ask me all the hard questions. It should go great. Okay, so you're going to hear at least a couple of references to my age throughout this process, so no laughing. Yes, I'm 40. It'd be fine, maybe 30. But I'm going to sprinkle some conversation in here about how we got to where we are. So where are you on campuses seeing upticks in fraud? These are through conversations we've had, obviously the big one, student financial aid, right? We're seeing issues with fraud, payroll and financial processes. You know, I came from a campus, I've been here about 7 years, but I came from a campus where our CIO, his W-2 got hacked and taxes filed on his behalf, which, you know, I think it was the next day we had Duo. Maybe there was a connection, I don't know. But in fact, true. Synthetic and ghost students, social engineering of IT help desk. These are just the stories that we're hearing. And it's not a new thing, but it's now reached that level of critical mass that everybody is talking to each other and figuring out, I have that problem. Oh, you have that, wait, you have that problem too? Wait, we all have this problem? And that's where we are, where we were last year as we began to uncover what's been going on in the fraud situation. So some use cases that we've seen in research, the NIH, the CADRs, the Control Access Data Repositories, they are well aware of some of these fraud issues, and they're making changes in their space. Research integrity, STM, paper mills, again, that's another situation where ghost identities are publishing papers. The checks and balances are different that we need now than we needed before. The DOE, the American Science Cloud, and then, of course, international access to our facilities. So what does identity proofing do? Right, so reducing the chances that an imposter is accepted as being someone else. So here's age reference number 1. When I was an undergrad in college, we used to line up under signs that had our social security numbers on them. And when we would get to the desk, the woman that sat across the desk had worked at the university for 47 years and had handed checks out to me on a regular basis and looked at my driver's license and handed me my check, right? There was no direct deposit. There was none of this other stuff, which in some ways was weirdly secure, right? I mean, she's looking at me in my face. I'm in line. I've got documentation. And this was 1983, roughly that timeline. But, you know, like I said, oddly, that was a very secure way to do things. So as we went back out, we started having conversations with everyone. And, you know, another issue that we heard a lot about, and I ran into this in my time in the past, was help desk verifications, like password resets. And it just continues to expand, right? So you start in the 80s and you've got a person across the desk from you with a driver's license talking to you, to now where people don't even come into help desks anymore. People don't go to financial aid offices. People are publishing papers. They never interact with a human. So what did we find out? We did a survey in the fall because we kind of went, this seems like there's a something here. We learned that this will not be shocking. Departments work in silos. But the coordination between those is just as critical, and even more so now that people are talking, because things are happening faster than real time in many cases. It used to be when you take a piece of paper and it made its way through the system, you had various checks and balances. Well, now it's instantaneous, right? I apply to a school, I'm accepted, I'm in the FAFSA. I mean, the thing just starts. So making this coordination of humans and departments is really important. We found half of our campuses surveyed already have some identity proofing, but may not realize it. That's linking back to the silos again. 73% want collective purchasing power through NetPlus. So they want some type of identity proofing help. You know, the first thing is to figure out everybody else has the same problem I do, and now let's move forward and try to fix this. And they want lots of opportunities to share with their peers. Again, same thing. Once I figured out that all of my neighbor campuses, all of my campuses in other states have this same problem, now we should talk. All right? That's when I first came to higher ed. I came from industry, and I remember my CIO telling me, I was explaining a problem, and he said, well, just throw it out to the Big Ten Academic Alliance. It was the CIC then. Throw the problem out there, and somebody will get back to you. I'm like, why? Why are they sharing their solutions with us? You know, fast forward a little bit, and that's how we all survive and thrive, is by sharing problems and sharing solutions. So what challenges are we finding with identity proofing? Shockingly, it's not about IT. Right? It's about a series of conversations. And for those who kind of went through the initial identity revolution, this is my second age reference, in the early aughts, right, so 2000-ish, you know, back when every college at the university had its own email server and there was no common password, there was no, you know, mascot ID, there was nothing like that. We had to have a lot of conversations, right? We had to understand everybody's business processes. Everybody from admissions to the campus wellness and recreation center. What are their business processes so we could build this? This is the next iteration of that, right? This is a series of conversations that need to happen. So as we go through these conversations, we need to understand what is the process that you're looking at. Some require, you know, extreme measures of security, like, again, the access to the controlled access data repositories. That's an area that there is a significant amount of risk. Getting into the campus rec center, maybe not so much risk. So it's part of it is identifying what are the processes we're talking about and how rigorous do we need to be. And there are a lot of ways to solve the problem, but the common thread amongst all of those is talking, is communicating, talking, getting people together, creating coalitions on campus who are interested in this. So what are we doing? What's InCommon and Internet 2 doing to help in this space? We have a lot of stuff going on. right? There's NetPlus issued in collaboration with us an RFP to find an identity proofing solution. So that is underway, and we're in the process of evaluating those, so there'll be more to come soon on that. The InCommon Academy, which is the training and education arm, is holding a series of events. We just completed our first accelerator in the identity proofing space, and a lot of the purpose, I think Jean's going to talk a little bit about this, but some of the purpose around that is to help you frame these conversations. You don't get to come and we give you, here's your solution. It's about the process and how to dictate and drive the process and how to start those conversations and build those coalitions. And then we have events called Thread Meetups, where it's that thing that I talked about when I sent my email out to the Big Ten Academic Alliance. We're going to hang out and we're going to talk about this, and everybody gets to talk, and it's relatively unstructured because it's a sharing exercise. And then finally, Federation and Identity Assurance Signaling. We're working in this space as well. We know there's, I think, going to be a QR code, maybe? Well, a QR code is available out, there's plenty of information out there. But we do know that the CADRs, the Controlled Access Data Repositories, are going to implement a more stringent requirement in January of 2027. So that's kind of the genesis of all of this stuff. This is where it started. As we became aware of that, we started working toward that, and then the identity proofing became kind of the umbrella over all of this. So watch for more information about that. And then why? Why do we care? I think you guys know the answer to this. But this is what we want, right? We're all in this together. We want the Federation to be sound. We obviously want secured borders. We want to help take care of our communities. Colleges and universities and research entities are under great stresses right now. So the more we band together, the stronger we all are. And that's, at its core, that's what InCommon and Internet 2 are all about, is helping to bring those opportunities to the front and help all of you. And that is it. I'm going to turn it over to Jean Horoszewski. She's the director of the InCommon Academy, and she'll have more information about all the things. Thank you. All the things. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, we like to say that, all the things, because there are so many things, aren't there? Well, as Rami says, I'm Jean Horoszewski. I'm InCommon Academy Director, and really happy to be here and talking about what we all do. So Sarah walked you through a lot of what's going on with the certificate transition, and Rami about all the identity proofing stuff. And what I hope I can cover today is just giving you a sense of how the InCommon Academy can help your institution build the capacity and capabilities they need to handle these kinds of things that are going on right now. So we like to say that InCommon Academy is your learning destination and community hub. So, we have a core belief that identity and access management strategies can only succeed when your teams have the knowledge and the support they need to make sure that they're done effectively. So we try to provide and spin up and respond to what's needed, and we do that through structured learning opportunities, we do that through different kinds of peer collaborations, we do that through community connections, but really it's meant to support your identity and access management maturity at your organization. And we try to do that in different ways, whether it's on demand or virtual or in person, or whether it's for those who are newly starting out, or many of you who are, been in this for quite some time. Rami, we won't talk about age references right now. So here is a quick glance at our learning and engagement pathway. These are all of our offerings, and this is sort of our full ecosystem of what we have to offer. And I want to breeze through them just for a minute before I zoom in on a couple of specific opportunities based on what we talked about today. So if you look at this whole gamut, a couple things just to take away. We have a range of offerings that help build on foundational identity and access management knowledge. We have programs that help you with your strategy and your planning, because you're informing your roadmaps, your initiatives, and we have programs that are meant to help accelerate that and move that along. We also have more technical skill building training. So for those of you who are using the Trusted Access platform like Shibboleth, Grouper, Midpoint, CoManage, we have technical training for all of those things, as well as Eduroam and InCommon. But the goal is to help you build your identity and access management infrastructure. We have things related to thought leadership And as Rami mentioned, lots of peer discussions so that you're gaining insights. You're also helping to inform the conversation so that we know what we need to spin up or what the community needs as well. And finally, industry support, because we have partners who really help you with real-time implementation. So that's the full gamut. So now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so that I can connect the dots a little bit from what you heard earlier today and what Rami said as well. So we have IAM Online. These are our webinars, monthly webinars, where we try to feature timely insights and practical know-how. And Sarah covered certificate service in detail. The Academy's role here is to help get the word out, and in this case, through webinars. So if you note the date, April 22nd, we're having our IAM Online totally focused on this certificate service transition. Free, virtual, but this is where you can come to get even more information that you're getting here or in person. So tune in, scan the QR code to register so that you're in the know, especially if this is affecting some of your institutions out there. Rami talked about accelerators. So this may be a new word for you all out there. It's a newer kind of programming. So just to be clear, accelerators are multi-week, cohort-based programs. And they're structured around a particular topic, a particular challenge. And the goal is to help advance, move you forward in your planning, in your strategies, in your road mapping. And we do that with structured programming, valuable peer connections, as well as industry expertise. So Rami mentioned the identity proofing accelerator. And we built it exactly for the moment that we're in right now. So the NIH compliance requirements, the financial aid fraud that many people are experiencing, the help desk recredentialing. So we know these are all on your plate right now. And this program puts your team through it. We have 2 more cohorts forming this year. We just completed one. We have 2 more forming, June through August, September through November. So if you want more to get your hands even more deeply into getting your teams through these things, scan the QR code, express your interest, and our team are going to reach right back out to you and tell you more if you have more questions. Rami mentioned thread meetups too. So this is slightly maybe adjacent to what we just talked about, but these are something we've been building recently. Why? As also what you've heard, the IAM landscape is changing really fast, and we know that there are conversations that need to happen now and not 6 months from now. And so we created thread meetups. And the name is intentional. We know that there are threads of conversations happening across the community all the time. They're happening out here in the hallway. They're happening in listservs, on Slack channels. And we wanted to pull on those threads and create dedicated spaces where you can have conversations with each other outside of a conference, in the middle of the year, and elsewhere. So each one is designed to be peer-led, lightly facilitated. It's not a lecture. You come, you show up, you ask questions, you offer your 2 cents. You're curious about all the things that others are curious about as well. And the good thing is when we hear stuff like this and they surface real things, we build on them. Our identity proofing accelerator is a result of a thread meetup that we hosted last year. So our next one, not quite about identity proofing, but our next one is May 5th. And this one is totally dedicated to identity across campus and healthcare systems. So if you have students, faculty, people who are going in between and back and forth, this might be the conversation for you. So come ready to share, ask questions, and participate. If today's sessions are making you think, this is making me think about my team, and maybe we need stronger identity and access management knowledge and foundations, well then Basecamp is your entryway and for your team to participate and learn a little bit more. So if those of you out in the audience don't know much about Basecamp, this is our 5-day virtual event that covers the breadth of identity and access management concepts, foundations. It's happening this year, June 1 through 5. They're half days, virtual, so no travel is required. And your team will come away with understanding a little bit more about the core capabilities of identity and access management. They'll understand how it fits into the context of your institution, about hybrid environments, about security, about federation, about eduroam. But the cool thing about Base Camp also is that we have these things called campfires, and it's where peers can connect, and you get to meet each other and know that you're not doing this work alone. So we try to make it easy for you to send your teams. We have a buy one, get one, so you can send more people for shared learning, bring it back. So we're also down the hall, so if you have more questions, but scan that QR code to learn a little bit more. And last but not least, if Base Camp is sort of the entryway, Advanced Camp or A Camp is where you can continue the conversation and get even more nitty-gritty about this world of identity and access management. So this is, A Camp happens in the final 2 days of the identity track at Technology Exchange. And this year that's happening in Minneapolis in October. So hopefully you got that on your calendar. So the cool thing is the participants set the agenda, and it's built in real time, and they elevate things that they're struggling with, or they have a question about, or they don't know something and they just want to hash it out with other people. So it's really great because then you break out into breakout rooms and you have these kind of conversations, and you walk away with talking about real world challenges, shared solutions, and immediate takeaways. So if you've not been, or maybe you have been and you know what it's like, this is a great place to problem solve together. So I've covered the gamut in a pretty rapid fire way, but we're here to answer questions about any and all of this. But I also will leave you with, you tell us what's percolating, because the Academy in particular, we want to be responsive to what y'all are doing and what we need to be putting back out there so that we can help you move along on this journey. So that's it from me. That's my thank you, but we can open the floor, I think, because we've laid out a whole bunch of stuff at you today, and Kevin has offered cards. I don't know if anybody's taking him up on his card offer, but we have 2 microphones. Anybody got some questions about any of it for us? Please do. And I'm going to step back. I don't know which one this is going to be aimed at. Oh, Matthew says.
All right, I'll break the ice.
Okay.
It's not scary to ask questions in front
No.
of people you don't know.
We want this to be a
Turn
conversation,
around.
so thank you.
How can the R&E community and partners get involved in this knowledge sharing? Because it's not just one way, right? I know a few tricks. I'm sure other people do too. So, what are good ways for us to participate?
I'm glad you said that. Wow, you're like the perfect setup for something that we have. If you happen to walk down the hallway, you'll see a tabletop shade for the Academy, and it says, share your experience. In fact, there's a QR code. How can, you all are living through this on a day-to-day basis, and you are experiencing things, you've figured stuff out, you've cracked a nut, you have a thing or two to say about things. The ways that you can get involved are many. I'll just rattle off a few. You could be a presenter at Base Camp. You might want to be on a planning committee that helps us shape what kind of programs we put out there. You might offer up, hey, I got a thread meetup topic, and I would be happy to facilitate that. You know, I'm really great at coaching, and I've been in this world for so long that I'm happy to be perhaps a mentor or an advisor on one of your programs. I have something that I want to get out to the community and want to share my practical know-how in this use case. Can I do a webinar? So I'm just rattling off just a few of these examples of all the different ways that you can share your knowledge. And we benefit from your knowledge and your expertise, because even if you think, oh, I've only been doing this for a short amount of time, or I don't know if I know anything, you actually do. And even if you've learned something last week that worked, and we figure out a way to embed that somewhere in some of our programming, that's what we want to hear. So if you're willing to go down there and scan the QR code, just tell us your name, and we offer 2 questions that you answer to say, hey, I'm kind of in this vicinity. We'll reach back out to you and figure out what's the best way for you to click in. I haven't even talked about advisory groups and committees and all those kinds of things that really work on specific topics or particular areas, so there's that opportunity as well. That was a great question. Thank you, Matthew. Anyone else? Anything about Cert service? identity proofing. Anything else from our fearless presenters up here? No? Good.
All right, since no questions, I'm gonna, I'll wrap things up, but feel free to ask questions. And I usually do this, but I want to just sort of reiterate a little bit of what Jean said, because the success of the community comes from all of you. And I have such huge thanks for so many people in the room. Normally I can see them, but today I can't. So I'm going to have to try to remember who I talked to as I came in. But people like Amanda, people like Matthew, participate in the things that we do. And probably some of you have staff members that participate in some of the things that we do. And it's a huge thank you. Because the things that happen, you're giving us the requirements, you're helping engage the governance, you're helping evangelize the stuff that's going on campuses. We just sort of bring you all together. So it's a deep and very heartfelt thanks from me to everyone here who participates or has a staff member that participates or is interested and is going to go sign up to participate now. Because we don't work if you guys are not involved and engaged in helping. And it's like I said, a very deep thank you from me, a sincere thank you for everything that you do for the community to help us help too. All right. Maybe there's still people. Oh yeah, there's still people. Good. You never know. They could have got up and left and we wouldn't know. But all right, no questions at all. No topics for Kevin. Kevin is a master at extemporaneous speaking. I'm a master at saying the word extemporaneous, perhaps, because I wasn't sure how that was going to come out, but it came out all right. So let's play Stump Kevin. I do it to him every day. He's used to Stump Kevin from me. Oh, Matthew gets a gold star. Is it a Stump Kevin question?
This is how I am. Okay, the identity proofing stuff, I heard about on Monday. I'm really excited about it, but I'm not a campus identity provider. I'm a relying party operator. So can I use it? Like, is the Net Plus, what the Net Plus program looking at suitable for people like me that would be the consumers of identity proofing data if only it were there, and when it isn't there, I've got to go supplement it. So that's the question I have. It's badly phrased. Sorry.
Are there any?
I'm a relying party. I also need identity proofing. Will the Net Plus program's solution be something I could use? That's my...
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't... Stump Kevin. Well done, Matthew.
Get him out of his chair. All right, cool.
So the first thing I want to do is ask a question to your question, which is my initial understanding of the value to you is improved, the promise of it improved levels of assurance for access to your stuff as a relying party. I'm curious, you don't have to answer it right now because I will address at least partially, I think, the core of your question, but what I would like to better understand what benefit you would receive from being able to do better identity proofing yourself. But before you do that, one of the realities in the manner by which Net Plus service evaluations work and how the relationship with various vendors work. And there is some variability in what I'm about to say here. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's more of a, we have to work with each vendor individually because vendors segment markets differently from one another and they protect the segmentation of those markets differently from one another. So this most prominently figures in the Net Plus world. That's a little bit of an approximation. When we deal with large research universities that also have hospitals, right? Does this Net Plus contract, is it available to the healthcare enterprise in addition to the university or not? And that depends on the vendor. Some vendors that we work with will say, yeah, if you get interest from K through 12, let's talk. To our mutual agreement, we might be able to do something there. And there could be some other, a consortial context or something like that. So Matthew, if there is a context in which that we should be including, and as we have these conversations, we are more than happy to advocate for that. But the leverage really exists with the vendor. We don't have a lot of power in this. Because ultimately, those who are participating in the service evaluation want a contract vehicle where they can, acquire the stuff. Did that make sense? We will try, and we will try our hardest. But on this point, we always seek leverage points. And you might be able to provide that for us by having a really important relying party in the mix.
Yeah, so the relying party I have immediately in mind is the NIAID Discovery and Collaboration Platform. And so that's part of the, U.S. federal government.
Right.
The benefit for us would be, because of our mission, which is to research, disease, disease affecting human health, American health, but also to stop disease outbreaks before they reach the American border. We have to work with folks, a wide variety of folks that are outside of the InCommon Federation. So even if every campus IDP at InCommon correctly implemented identity proofing, however they did that, correctly signaled that to us, I have a whole host of organizations I need to work with that are outside of that. And so it would still help me to be able to do some kind of, for lack of a better term, step up identity proofing to be able to interoperate with those campuses, those organizations that either do not today or cannot currently implement identity proofing on their own of some kind. So the campus IDPs will save me a lot of work by doing it themselves. That'd be great. That's what I want. That's the ideal. But I still have a gap that I need to meet because I have to interoperate with everybody else still. And I can't easily say no because of my mission. My mission's human health, stop disease from reaching America, and so cutting people off when they don't come in unproofed isn't something I can do. But I still have to mitigate the risk somehow. So that,
Thank you for that, by the way.
does that make sense? I can answer more questions.
It makes total sense. I have some approximations in my head as to how I might be able to put some of that into action, but I'll take that offline with you just because, see if there's any other questions. But I want to test my model and then cut me loose on the upcoming service evaluation. Anything else? Nothing about movies or the Orioles and the Diamondbacks are about to start. Sarah and I are going to get into fisticuffs later. All right, the meeting is adjourned.